Hello, and welcome back to the next part of the White Album 2 Doujinshi, The Missing Score. So, pretty exciting stuff. Kazusa basically found pages of an unfinished symphony by Bruckner. Very shocking to the classic music world here. She ended up performing it, or her rendition of it, at her last concert, and now her and Koharu are having breakfast at the hotel. So, let's continue on from here. But Bruckner had clear ideas for the fourth movement. When he composed the work, he had the length of the whole thing determined from the start, and marked the sheet music with corresponding consecutive numbers. And, even if the full score was incomplete, among these sheets, numbered from start to finish, there must have been some notions sketched out. Until the morning of his final day, he was working away with his pen at his score, his bogen. Tragically, however, about half of that bogen had gone missing. Since it was unfinished, some pupil of his had taken it home as a memento, given it to someone, or some garbage collector had carried it off. As a result, of a bogen that was supposed to have 40 pages, around half of them were lost. But the society, the researchers, are still looking for it, she said. Word was that half of it had been found in Washington before. Her thin, shapely lips touched the rim of her baccarat glass. Her pretty pink tongue flicked out briefly. Oh, I love the little tongue. So cute. So teasing to Koharu. She was so... You were never just in it for the macarons, were you? Oh, you'll never know. In my slightly tipsy state, I stared more brazenly at her face than usual. Okay, excuse me, they are not having breakfast. Unless they are having breakfast and drinking. We'll never know. There was self-satisfaction in that grin, but she was gorgeous enough that I forgave her. As vulgar as she seemed, when it came to anything in the realm of music, she was enormously sharp and sensitive. Truly dangerous if one let one's guard down. Around 1980, researchers discovered a fair portion of the lost fourth movement of Bruckner's Ninth. A part of it was still missing, and there were many blank passages, but that didn't mean there was no possible way of completing it. In all of Bruckner's symphonies, the first movement took the sonata form, the second was gentle and quiet, the third a scherzo and trio, and the fourth was another sonata. They all were made up of 4 movements. And Bruckner's sonata form always had 3 themes. Now, I don't know if all of this is actually true, but if it is, holy crap, the research that went into this is amazing. Like, honestly, this is one of the best WA2 doujins I think I've ever read. Because it's not focused on the same drama, you know? Oh my god, introductory chapter, what happened behind the scenes? Or, oh my god, post-marriage with Setsuna, we're so happy. You know, they're good. They are. They are, you know. But they're done so many times. This doujin takes it in a completely different direction. And I love it. And it seems really realistic. Like, the characters are written really well. Really enjoyed this. I'm still enjoying it. But I am enjoying it. So, let's continue. Therefore, if one understood his ideas, it shouldn't be impossible to recreate the complete picture. Picture? Okay. Up to this point, several scholars had taken it upon themselves to grapple with the fourth movement. A number of CDs of performances of the full 4-movement version had been released. There were a few differences depending on the scholar in question, but we'll pass on that discussion. The most famous among these was Simon Rattle's recording with Berlin Philharmonic Bruckner 9 4-movement version. Attempts at performing the fourth movement were never very well accepted by old classical music fans. To that extent, it is conventional to perform the first through third movements of Bruckner's ninth as a complete arc, to play the third movement as though one were climbing an angel's ladder, as it were, and to finish with ascension into heaven. So interesting, which is why you could imagine some fans objecting so harshly to a fourth movement, especially an unfinished fourth movement. Right? Simon gave a legendary performance that all but wiped that out, as if to establish playing all four movements as the norm from then on. I deeply admired the way he tackled this experiment so directly. She still had the glass to her lips, enjoying its contents. How mortifying. I had believed, as the manager of a performing classical pianist, that I had heard the majority of the great past performance recordings that existed. I hadn't wanted to cause Kazusa-san any embarrassment, so I had been determined to learn enough that I could respond confidently to anything she might say. Dude, best manager, MVM, most valuable manager. And not wanting to let Kazusa down. God, I love it. It's so cute. I love these two. But I had never shown any interest in attempts to perform the fourth movement of Bruckner's ninth. I had assumed any score a scholar had added to would be something crude. Oh, Koharu. I assumed that any score a scholar had added to would be something crude, questionable, something with no weight behind it, like Mahler's 10th Symphony, or the first movement of Beethoven's Ninth. But Rattler's performance with the Berlin Philharmonic really impressed me. Yes. After we arrived in Philadelphia, while she was performing in the studio, I had listened over and over to a high-res download of that very performance. And, while she was working at her piano arrangement of the fourth movement in the hotel, I had watched her entire process. Nicolas Harnoncourt had said of the fragmented fourth movement that it was like a stone from the moon. And the impression I received was very much like that. Something rugged and angular, with lots of dissonances. But just like the stars scrawled on those 3 old scores. The fourth movement is like a tale crossing the sea of the cosmos, the sea of falling stars. Oh, that's nice. The sea of the cosmos is my sea. What's that? Seriously? You're only 3 years younger than I am. Ignoring her muttering about space pirates, I emptied my own glass. These two getting drunk together. Adorable. I could read a whole fic of just these two living their lives together. I mean, we are, but I mean after this takes place. But I thought it would be a shame for the research to stop just because someone had done a performance and called it the complete version. Oh, what's with that glare? Nothing. She was really baffling. Baffling in that simply thinking it would be a shame should lead her to get involved in said research herself. The scale was mind-boggling. I mean, if you're truly a musician like that, you probably care about things like this. So, if you find a lead on something, why not chase it? That's your passion. What Kazusa-san had discovered were the 48 bars leading from the recreated Lost Third theme to the coda. That was the part that a scholar had treated for Rattle's record. At present, what followed, up until the final bogan, when the closing cadenza ended, was gone. The intervening bars had been filled by the scholar's additions. In other words, the greatest climax was something supplemented. And that passage, over 140 bars, from that 48th bar sketch she had discovered, she had entirely rewritten it. And on top of that, everything that had existed only as a sketch, everything that the scholar had touched up, she had entirely arranged it. It was a grand arrangement, making bold use of dissonance, as though Bruckner himself had undertaken it. Gazing at her furiously filling the score with notes, I didn't even notice my eyes growing dry. It was an incredible moment in time. I had never experienced such a densely packed interval in my life. Spending that time together with her, I learned anew. I etched into my soul that this woman was a genius. Which we knew, but really seeing someone looking at over 100-year-old classic music scores and then just being able to fill it in and rearrange it herself, that is genius. That is exactly what it means to be a genius. That man, the fan of Simon Rattles, he was gaping at you completely blank-faced. Serves him right. I'm a little worn out, but that was a great experience. I feel like I managed to communicate with Anton in my own way. She spoke of this great historical composer as though he were a friend. I wanted to stay with her forever. Oh, what a cute admission. Kazusa-san? Write a symphony that will be left in the history of the galaxy. Please? You bet. I'll be with you for as long as it takes. Yep. I'm not letting you go until you get married, Koharu-chan. She smiled kindly at me. But what if you two get married? Oh. That smile was so utterly sweet and lovely that I would gladly have offered up everything I had to it. Oh. And that had been last night. After taking the drowsy Kazusa-san back to the room, I had undressed her and put her to bed. Then, as I watched her stomach, white and smooth like porcelain, rising and falling with her breath, my mind started wandering to all sorts of places, setting my head spinning, and I began to feel unwell. And so I returned to my own room and resolved it violently. Yikes. My memory cuts off after crawling into bed and dropping off. No, it wouldn't have done to press in on someone under the influence of alcohol. Koharu is such a bye baby. I said it once and I'll say it again. She has a crush on Kazusa, and that is so cute. And the fact that she didn't act on things because she knows they were both under the influence of alcohol, very respectable decision of Koharu. Especially not someone who had feelings for another. Which I think is a little bit dumb because obviously Haruki is off limits, he's married, he has kids, so even if someone has feelings for him, I still say they're fair game to go after. It was a very important bit of self-reflection. In the morning, my head was heavy. The alcohol must still be having some effect. She, having chosen a ham and lettuce sandwich and a tart glass of lemonade for breakfast, also seemed to be dealing with a bit of a hangover. Her mood did not seem especially good this morning. And there was the arts section of the paper to deal an additional blow. The main part of the concert had drawn a storm of praise from every reviewer. But the fourth movement of Bruckner's Ninth, arranged for the piano by Kazusa Toma, that she had poured so much effort into had been met with a far chillier reception. Oh no! Why do they all have to criticize it for being long? I'd tried to tell her that playing a 23-minute piece as her encore was a bad idea. That's a long encore. This is like a show of its own. And why can't they put up with a little dissonance? Didn't they understand that what they were hearing was a supernova explosion? Personally, I wanted to tell Master Bruckner, who had descended from the heavens to inspire her, that he had overdone it a little. And that part about most of the women in the audience being asleep, that's a damn lie. No, that was true. Hence what I'd said about it not being very popular with women. The only fans who looked excited as they listened were a small contingent of earnest Bruckner fans. I mean, there was a reason that Bruckner isn't counted among the geniuses. There was a reason that his music was criticized harshly. And the reason Kazusa's being criticized harshly was because it was his music, just rearranged. Damn it, my head's all murky. Maybe I'll play it first thing on all the rest of my tours. Kazusa-san. I started to try to advise her against it. I think you're far enough out of control as it is. The terrace of a Hilton hotel, where two hungover women were eating their breakfast. A Japanese man had approached us from behind, and now he took off his sunglasses. We drew back our chairs and turned to look. Haruki. Good morning, Kazusa. Senpai. Good morning, Sugiura-san. Are you both hungover? Wow, finally Haruki makes his appearance. I mean, we heard him on the phone briefly, but now here he is finally paying a visit to them. Shut up. I know you probably think you're fine because you don't have a performance today, but you need to be more careful with your health. Senpai tapped Kazusa-san's head lightly a couple times with his palm. Yeah. She looked down, her cheeks turning pink. You're old enough to know better. Ow, ow, get off. The next moment, Kazusa-san had stomped hard on Senpai's foot. Served him right. Dude, don't call someone old enough to know better just from getting a hangover. Dude, she was enjoying celebrating this performance with her manager, who, honestly, she should just be dating her instead. Lay off. Don't rain on her parade. Don't be negative all the time. Grumbling over receiving such poor treatment when they hadn't seen each other in this long, Senpai took the seat next to Kazusa-san. He had the same ordinary looks he'd had since I first met him. A serious, kind, dependable face, with its own sweetness and charm. Sugiura-san, aren't you forgetting something important? What? The encore of yesterday's performance was captured by the local media. Oh, right. Yes. Ugh, I had forgotten. I assume you haven't seen it on YouTube then? He said. It's had intense, ardent praise from Bruckner fans all over the world. He set his iPad on the table. There she was, winding her wild way through the fourth movement of Bruckner's ninth, a look of rapture on her face. It was beautifully recorded. And there below it, over 100,000 views? What the hell? It's been a mixed reception, so there are a fair number of thumbs down. Thumbs down. But they're overwhelmingly outnumbered by the people who rate it highly. Incidentally, I gave it a thumbs up myself. Of course you did. If you gave it a thumbs down, you'd just be a jerk. Haruki, you watched it? I was thrilled to get to hear such an incredible performance of an amazing piece. Amazing work, Kazusa. I wish I'd been able to hear it live. Oh. Well, yeah, that's par for the course for me. Once again, she looked bashful. So, with all that being the case, I think you should be getting a phone call soon. Huh? With perfect timing, my phone began to ring. Hello? Yes. Who is calling, please? Huh? In an instant, I flew into a panic, and my voice cracked. Who is it? The maestro. Wait, you mean Simon? Take over the call, please. Hello. This is Kazusa speaking. What did I tell you? As Kazusa-san proceeded to speak with the maestro in friendly terms, I sat completely perplexed. What did the maestro have to say? He said, give me the full score. What? He said, knowing you made up a full score for the orchestra, not just a piano arrangement. Give it to me. Kazusa-san shot a brief, reproachful glance my way. Wait, I haven't said a word to anyone. Hang on, you didn't, right? Senpai looked at Kazusa-san, stunned. I did. She sighed, looking vaguely embarrassed. Of course she did, because Kazusa doesn't do anything half-hearted. She puts her whole body and soul and sweat and tears and blood into it. I got excited. Next thing I knew, all the blanks and missing parts in my copy of the full handwritten score were full of notes. She shook her head, set her right hand against the back of her neck, and laughed a little. Of course she did. She's such a hard worker. Her smile was innocent, sweet, like a child who'd been caught in a prank. Unbearably cute. I want to write my first symphony by the time I'm 30. This was great practice. You completed an unfinished symphony, one of the great mysteries of musical history, as practice? I thought I was used to surprises from you, but Kitahara-senpai evidently was similarly stupefied. By the way, are we sure that score is authentic? I think it'll be okay. The society said there aren't any doubts as to the handwriting. Also, in accordance with your advice, senpai, I found several other documents of interest. Any letters? Yes, I found a handwritten love letter with a signature. A love letter? Apparently, it belonged to someone related to the owner's great-grandmother. It's believed that Bruckner, who was 66 at the time, sent it to a 17-year-old girl named Claudia. Wait, he what? Shameless old man. Kazusa-san looked off into the distance, sipping at her lemonade through her straw. Gross, nasty. Bruckner was a devout Catholic, and he was celibate for a time. However, once he passed the age of 60, he started a cycle of falling in love with teenage girls and sending them love letters. Gross and weird. That's extreme. Apparently, he would just propose out of nowhere. Of course, they all turned him down. Who the hell would be happy about a random marriage proposal from some loser composer guy who was 40 years older than you? The original owner of the score was one of the girls to whom Bruckner proposed. She must not have hated him, even if she did turn him down. In some way or another, she acquired this sheet music posthumously and kept it safe with this love letter. That's an amazing story. Senpai was leaning forward slightly. Is it? Kazusa-san let slip a vacant chuckle. Bruckner kept a sort of bride book. A bride book? A notebook where he carefully wrote out the ages, the looks, even the physiques of all the girls who turned him down. Naturally, Claudia must have been in there. Had she known about this bride book, it would be pretty weird for her to keep the score and the love letter around, don't you think? Yeah, I do. I think this whole situation is kind of weird, considering Bruckner, but then again, I guess it was over 100 years ago, and things were pretty different back then. Kazusa-san struck a pose with both hands facing up. The exaggerated character of the gesture was the very picture of her mother, Yoko-san. Oh boy. Senpai pinched the bridge of his nose. That story was so engaging that I was thinking about making it into an article, but like it would be that easy, stupid. Can I take a look at that love letter later? Senpai asked, looking sadly at me. I have it right with me right now, actually. Here. As he read, his face grew grimmer and grimmer, and it didn't seem to be because of the effort it took to translate from German. No, this is painful to read. It's embarrassing. Oh, this coming from you, senpai? The writer of Todoka Koi. Come on. Which is more embarrassing, a 60-year-old virgin writing about teenage girls' boob sizes in a notebook? Nice, nasty, gross, yuck. Or a high school virgin guy writing a song about unrequited feelings in a notebook? There's nothing in there about boobs or virginity. I was getting a bit flustered, hearing such dirty talk from her lovely lips. Oh, God. You two? Well, so what? Thanks to the melody you put to my embarrassing lyrics, I'm still getting royalties. And you, how long do you plan on making money off of me? My understanding was that I was helping you make money too. They continued on in their trivial quarreling. Even so, enough information had been brought up to make a solid article. Next, there would be exchanges of ideas with scholars of Bruckner's Ninth, collaborative research, and if all went well, there could be performances of Kazusa Toma's completed piano edition, or the orchestral edition, maybe even recordings thereof. And all of this was spoken in light tones, like a simple chat. This was the synchronicity of best friends, I supposed. Indeed, a relationship that was something more than best friends, but not quite lovers. And, though it infuriated me to admit it, I was enormously envious. But the thing about Koharu is she's got something with Kazusa now that's beyond friendship, and none of the emotional baggage that she has with Haruki. I'd love to run into another neat mystery like that. What, are you going to take up detective work on the side? Not at all, good sir. I am simply a roving master of music. She mimicked strumming a lyre. No, no. I stood up and moved around behind Kazusa-san. Then I slowly embraced her shoulders. We're a pair of roving masters of music. Yes, the two roving masters of music. Paying little mind to Kitahara-senpai, who was looking up at us with a dubious expression, I rubbed Kazusa-san's shoulders. Jealous, aren't you? You want to hold her again, don't you? But I won't allow that. I'm not giving you to Kitahara-senpai, Kazusa-san. We are the two roving masters of music. I want to travel with you forever. Let us cross the sea of the cosmos, the sea of the falling stars, a boundless musical journey, in search of mysteries, secrets, the truth, and your happiness. The end. Oh, I love it so much. What a beautiful ending. And they leave it vague. Like, they're not like, oh, and then Koharu and Kazusa fell in love. No, they don't. They leave it open to interpretation, and I love that. What a good story. Really, really, truly, from start to finish, great story. So the missing score part 9 is just the afterword from the author. To everyone who picked up this story, everyone who read it, thank you. I am deeply grateful. This story is a fan work based on White Album 2, an 18+ adventure game released by Leaf and Aquaplus for Windows. It takes place after Setsuna's ending. However, Setsuna has no lines. Well, she really didn't, did she? Why? Because this is a story for Kazusa. I am a die-hard fan of Kazusa's ending, and a die-hard member of Team Kazusa. Setsuna's ending is fine too. I don't hate Setsuna. I love her. But I love Kazusa's ending even more. This is how people should act, I feel. Understanding that every ending is viable. Having your own preferences, but not hating either girl. When I think over Kazusa's feelings regarding Setsuna's ending, my chest tightens up in an extraordinarily painful way. And I'm not the biggest fan of how uncool Haruki gets in Setsuna's ending. I've already written about that in the afterword to It's Not Love, one of my other stories, so I won't say any more about it here. So why on earth would I write a short story following Setsuna's ending? That would be because I didn't want to leave Kazusa's unhappy world line as it was. That's beautiful. That's a true Kazusa fan. I wanted to write a world in which, following Setsuna's ending, Kazusa could be happy forever. Forever cool, beautiful, and the most incredible pianist. As for Kazusa's supportive partner and narrator in that journey, I chose Koharu-chan. After all, out of all the CC girls, she has the most powerful Yuri aura. Yuri aura. Oh my god, I never thought about that. That's true though. I mean, I could see Chiaki liking girls, I can, but as far as like being in love with girls and being serious about it and being a serious manager, Koharu's clearly the right choice here. I also considered a story in which Kazusa stole Setsuna from Haruki and found happiness, but I couldn't get the creative juices flowing well for that. With Koharu-chan, though, I was able to get somewhere. My apologies to everyone on Team Koharu. I hope you'll forgive me for the moments where her character breaks down a bit. My intention for this project is to write a series from Koharu-chan's point of view, in which Kazusa, with Koharu-chan's support, makes use of her musical skill and knowledge, forceful, unflinching speech, and recently acquired communication ability to solve music-related mysteries. Kazusa is overpowered. She is very, very smart in this, I will say. And in the midst of that, to find situations in which I can make Kazusa happy. Now, we shall see whether I can actually write a continuation, since I haven't actually read all that many mystery or suspense novels. Although I wouldn't have ever guessed that because I think he wrote it extremely well. I will be very grateful if you kindly watch over me. Lastly, I was able once again to wrap my story in gorgeous artwork. I love Enna-san's illustrations so much. They're utterly wonderful. You can toss out what's inside the book, though I'll cry. Just hold on to the artwork for the rest of your life. You could frame it and hang it up even. Alright everyone, let's meet again someday in Onjuku. My heart is always with Kazusa. Ushineko, November 3rd, 2018. And then you can find the information here from Ushineko, the author, as well as Enna, the illustrator. Incredible story. I really, really, really like this doujin. I love how unique it is. I love that Koharu is here playing a main role. I mean, she is the supporting character, but she's one of two of the main characters of this. I think it puts a spin on what is the classic WA2 doujins. I say classic because they are well done, and you know, you love reading, oh, it's the same scenario, but with a slight twist. This is something entirely new, and that's why I think it's so exciting, and that's why I think it stands out. But it's also wonderfully researched and wonderfully written. So, with that, thank you ever so much for joining me on this final chapter of this White Album 2 doujinshi, and I'll be back doing more doujinshi readings in the future. So until then, hope you take care. See you!